The hardest walk leads to the greatest destination. And what's our destination, brothers? The kingdom, man. The arms of Yahushua, man. The scriptures tell us in the Apocrypha, there's a day coming where Yahushua will place crowns upon the heads of the brothers that maintain their faith in him, that believed in him. He shall place crowns upon their heads. Ezra saw that, man. Our great forefather Ezra saw that in a vision. We want to be part of that group, man. We want to be one of those individuals receiving that crown from Yahushua. You know how great that is? I couldn't begin to possibly explain that in words. Words can't even explain the joy of that. Okay?
And when the chief shepherd shall appear, ye shall receive the crown of glory that fadeth not away.
And what is our destiny? To be in this truth. To be in this truth and to make it to the end. As it is written, to finish the work. Like Yahushua said, I've finished the work. You know? The Apostle Paul said the same thing. Henceforth I know there's a crown of righteousness that is laid up for me. Okay, that is our destiny.
Blessed is the man that endureth temptation, for when he is tried, he shall receive the crown of life which the Lord hath promised to them that love him. The Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit that we are the children of God. And if children, then heirs of God, and joint heirs with God. If so be that we suffer with him, that we may be also glorified together. For I reckon that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us. For the earnest expectation of the creature waiteth for the manifestation of the sons of God.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shah Bahashem, Kakwadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to his younger brothers. And peace and blessings and salutation to the hopeful elect out there pushing his word and truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shah. All right, pushing them to the out of here, you know, and let's go here. So yeah, what we're gonna do, all right, is continue on in the book of 1 Corinthians. You know, we made the 10th chapter. You know, in this chapter, the Apostle Paul, you know, he goes through a lot of history, you know, dealing with those rebels, okay, in the wilderness. You know, you had, you know, several accounts, okay, of Jake just wilding, complaining, ungrateful, okay, in the wilderness. All right, tapping into idolatry and, you know, complaining and murmuring, okay, and the Lord, you know, will judge. Okay, so the Apostle Paul, you know, he's telling the story to the church of Corinth, you know, letting them know like the Most High don't play about rebellion, you know, like they don't abuse the grace, okay, of Yahweh, okay, because the Heavenly Father, you know, is serious when it comes to rebellion, you know, and so he goes through history, you know, he goes through the goodness of the Lord, you know, the good things the Lord, you know, was doing for Jake in the wilderness, but how Jake was unappreciative, okay, and the Lord, you know, anger was kindled, all right, and he would reach out and judge, okay. That's why the chapters, all right, called Avoid Israel's Mistakes, you know, and then once we read this, we're gonna let you know that he's talking to Israelites, okay. So when you read it, and this is in the AMP, all right, 1 Corinthians 10:1 says, "For I do not All right. I do not want you to be unaware, believers, that our fathers, wait a minute, that our fathers were all under the cloud in which the Most High's presence went before them, and they all passed miraculously and safely through the Red Sea. So it said our fathers. Okay, wait a minute. Let's who is he addressing? So like, okay. So off the bat, like them Cali niggas say, all right, from the jump, he's letting you know who he's addressing. Because you go to the word, so like you go to his word fathers, okay, in the Greek.
Strong's G 3962. Pater. Pater.
All right, partea in the Greek. So like, all right, it says pater in the Greek. It says generator or male ancestor. Okay, either the nearest ancestor father, all right, or corporal nature, natural fathers, both parents, or more remote ancestor, the founder of a family or tribe, progenitor of a people, father. So Abraham is called Jacob and David. You see, a more remote ancestor, the founder of a family or tribe, progenitor of a people, okay, forefather. So Abraham is called Jacob and David. So right at the beginning of this chapter, okay, he says what? Your fathers. Okay, right before he goes into the history of a particular people, okay, is he's writing to the Corinthians, and what is he saying? All right, our fathers, it's like our fathers, possessive, okay, that our fathers, our progenitors, you see. So he, Apostle Paul, fully understands that these are Israelites, these are descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob that he's writing to, man. All right, Paul was never confused on that, man. Okay, that's crazy work to teach that these days, man. Knowing that you're an Israelite. First Corinthians 10:1 said, "For I do not want you to be unaware believers that our fathers were all under the cloud in which the Most High's presence went before them, and they all passed miraculously and safely through the Red Sea." It says, "And all of them were baptized into Moses, all right, into his safekeeping as their leader in the cloud and in the sea. And all of them ate the same spiritual food, okay, that manna, all right, was those representation of Yahweh. And all of them drank of their same spiritual drink, which was a representation, okay, of Yahweh. All right, for they were drinking from a spiritual rock which followed them, and their rock was Hamashiach. Okay, so Apostle Paul was like, look, here it is. They had a cloud to guide them with the presence of the Most High, which was Yahweh in their chariot. Okay, a cloud by day, which was a protection, from the heat in the wilderness. Okay, and light at night to be a guide. Okay, so they were provided for, man. They had the manna, the water. Okay, eventually the quail. You see, so Lord provided them on the way to the promise. Just as He's provided us, all right, for us on the way to the promise, man. Okay, but that wasn't enough for a nigga. Just like now, the truth itself ain't enough for a nigga, man. You see, they gotta add the gimmicks and the world and idolatry. They gotta include all the madness into it. Okay, but we have everything we need. We have the manna, Yahweh Shai. We have the spiritual water. All right, we're nourished in a famished environment, man. Okay, we're well taken care of in the desert, and it's all a perspective. Okay, it's all a perspective, man. And to Jake, that wasn't enough, man. It's just like a woman that no matter what you do is never enough. Okay, eventually you're gonna be fed up, man. And just check out. Okay, and the Most High, hey, checked out on Jake a few times, man, and spazzed out on Jake in the wilderness, man. And we'll get them accounts, Bible shot. This is 1 Corinthians 10, all right, and 5. It said, nevertheless, the Most High was not pleased with most of them, all right, just like you have a 2/3, okay, because you go into it, you go in this footnote. It says all of those adult Israelites who had been bondage in Egypt. Okay, only Joshua and Caleb, along with those born in the wilderness, were allowed to enter the promised land. So all them big grown rusty niggas that came out of Egypt, that the Lord did all them plagues and did their miraculous exodus. Okay, all them unappreciative niggas, man. All right, and then most of them is 2/3, man. Except for you had Joshua and Caleb and those children born, showing you that there's a generation of the elect and there's a generation of the non-elect, man. And they're both here today. Okay, it said, for they were scattered along the ground in the wilderness because their lack of self-control led to disobedience, which led to death. Okay, their lack of self-control. They didn't have the discipline. Okay, that's what they lack. They lack discipline. Okay, in the wilderness, man, they was provided for, but they wanted more. Okay, and then they went back into what? The idolatry. Okay, because they long for their life of Egypt, the culture of Egypt. Okay, they didn't want to deal with the discipline. Okay, it took to go through the wilderness into the promised land. Okay, and this is what you see amongst our people now. That's why Jake's selling out. Okay, Jake's selling out the doctrine and going back to, pushing madness, and because Jake don't got the discipline to make it to the promised land, man. Okay, Jake is enamored, under this allure of spiritual Egypt. Okay, so we're gonna get these accounts. It says now these things, all right, the warning and the admonitions, all right, took place as examples for us, so that we would not crave evil things as they did. But it says, do not be worshipers of handmade gods, as some of them were, or just as it is written in scripture, the people sat down to eat and drink after sacrificing to the golden calf, okay, a Horeb, and stopped, all right, and stood up to play, indulging in immoral activities, man. You see? And it goes into the golden calf. It said the selection of a calf god was probably inspired by the Egyptian bull Apis, all right, or Hapis. Okay, so they love that Egyptian culture, man. The part because Egyptian had the temple, harlots and prostitutes and parties and the orgies, and they was into that. The nightlife. Okay, with the fish, you go. Jake could leave the temple, get a fish plate with some beer and wine, and just random women like Jake was. You see, that's why Jake sell out now. Jake want that lifestyle, man. Okay, Jake sell out so he can go indulge in the lifestyle of Egypt, man, of Rome. Okay. Verse 8 says, we must not indulge nor tolerate sexual immorality as some of them did. And 3,000 suddenly fell dead in a single day. All right. We must not tempt the Lord that is test his patience, question his purpose, or exploit his goodness, as some of them did, and they were killed by serpents. And do not murmur in unwarranted discontent, as some of them did, all right, and were destroyed by the destroyer, going to Corey, all right, and Dathan, okay, them complaining, rebellious niggas, man. All right, so now these things happen to them as an example and a warning to us. They were written for our instruction, to admonish and equip us, upon whom the ends, all right, of the ages, all right, have come. Okay, so let's get some of these accounts, man, with Jake, man. Okay, when you go here to Numbers, all right, 11, all right, and they could call this book complaining ass niggas, man, murmuring ass niggas, man. You know, because this is the book where Jake complained the most, man. You see, this is Numbers 11 and 1. It says, now the people became like those who complain and whine about their hardships. And the Lord, all right, heard it. And when the Lord heard it, his anger was kindled, and the fire of the Lord burnt among them and devoured those into the outlying parts, okay, into the outlying parts of the camp. So the Lord is hearing these niggas complaining, man. Seeing Jake saying that it's hardships because Jake just didn't have access to everything they wanted in Egypt. They couldn't satisfy their lust out there in the wilderness, man. You know, and that's what the truth. It puts us in a position to where we can't wild out on our lust, man. We can't just, you know, destroy ourselves, okay, with lust, man, and just indulge. Okay, the Lord was requiring discipline. Okay, He was requiring moderation. Okay, but Jake, okay, was complaining about that, man. Okay, just like now, man, we live simple lives, man. That's why, you know, Jake, call us bums and because we live simple lives. You know, that's why most women ain't, we don't qualify, all right, for the modern woman. We live too simple. Or say you can't afford me and all this old crazy shit. You damn right. Okay, but ultimately they're not qualified for us if you're looking at it. See, that's the one thing, the truth, it changes our perspective. Okay, we don't look at the things of this world like we missing out. This world ain't qualified for us, man. You know, that's the way I've been thinking, man, especially lately. This world ain't qualified for us, man. All right, we ain't missing out on the goddamn thing. Okay, we got everything to come in righteousness, man. The Lord, like El Kazak always say, the Lord want better for us, man. You know, but Jake, that's why Jake sell out. Cause Jake want to be appeasing to who, man? This world, mainly the goddamn woman. Okay, it says, so the people cried out to Moses, and when Moses prayed to the Lord, the fire died out. He named the place to Barah, the place of burning, because the fire of the Lord burnt among them, man. The Lord from the smoke them niggas, man. you know, it says, it said the rabble, okay, okay. So this was a mixed multitude was hyping Jacob to complain too, and this is why eventually they got smoked. All right. It says a unique word found only here in the Old Testament. It refers to the mixed multitude of non-Israelites who joined the Exodus. Okay, and what is their legacy? Because they try to use this to say, well, you had non-Israelites, follow them. Okay, during the Exodus. Well, what happened to them niggas, man? And what did them niggas provoke? Okay, it says the rabble among them who followed Israel from Egypt had greedy desires for familiar and delicious food. You see that? They wanted their delicacies, man. And the Israelites wept again and said, who will give us meat? Okay, so they're provoking Jake to complain. Okay, it said, we remember the fish we ate freely and without cost in Egypt, the cucumbers, melons, leeks, onions, and garlics. And Jake remember them plates. Okay, Jake was eating them Mediterranean plates. Okay, chilling. You see? It says, but now our appetite is gone. There is nothing at all in the way of food, all right, to be seen but this manna. So Jay act like they had nothing. All right, this is what the ungrateful Jay act like he had nothing, man. Like nothing, like no provisions, like no miracles, like Jake complaining about some fish and cucumbers. All the miracles the Lord did, and the nigga complaining about fish and cucumbers, man. That's why you can't do nothing with a nigga, man. All right, well, they complaining ass nigga woman, man. It's not even worth the effort. Okay, it says the manna was like a corridor seed and looked like what is it called? Bedylium. Okay, and what it goes says a gum resin obtained from various trees, agreed to make incense or perfume, and was also used as a topical ointment. Okay, so it looked like a resin, the color. It said the people went about and gathered it and found it in the mills or beat it in mortars and boiled it in pots and made cakes with it. All right, tortillas like Jake had it made, man, and it tasted like cake. All right, baked with fresh olive oil, man. So Jake had it made, man, and it was free. You know what I'm saying? Like, damn. It says when the dew fell on the camp at night, the manna fell with it, man. So the Lord was providing, man. Okay. And then you got these crying ass niggas, man. Numbers 11 and 10. Now Moses heard the people weeping in self-pity throughout their families, every man in the doorway of his tent. All right. And the anger of the Lord blazed hotly, and Moses regarded their behavior as evil. Okay, and the anger of the Lord blazed hotly, and you see, the Lord pissed at these niggas. Then they weeping in self pity, like they the victim, like something is being done so wrong to them. Okay, and they just got free from slavery, man. What can you do with a people like that, man? Okay, but unalive them. Okay, it says, every man in the doorway of his tent, and the anger of the Lord blazed hotly, and Moses regarded their behavior as evil, man. Even Moses was pissed at them niggas, man. Okay, and Moses was meek. He was, be chill, but then even he was pissed at these niggas, man. And you jumped down, and the Lord, gave Jake manna. Okay, so Lord give Jake manna, crying ass niggas manna. And you go to Numbers 11 and 31. Now there went forth a wind from the Lord, and it brought quails from the sea and let them fall. So they flew low beside the camp about a day's journey on the side, and on the other side, all around the camp, about 2 cubits, 3 feet deep. All right, on the surface of the ground, man. So it's just tons of quail, man. Literally, man, 3 feet high, just quails, just providing, man. Provisions made. Okay. It says the people spent all day and all night and all the next day and caught and gathered the quail, the number, all right, who it says the one who gathered least gathered 10 homers, and they spent, all right, and they spread them out for themselves around the camp to cure them by drying. While the meat was still between their teeth before it was chewed, the anger of the Lord was kindled against the people. The Lord struck them with a very severe plague, man. The Lord, all right, smoked them niggas, man. The Lord looking at these niggas, man, you can tell these niggas were just like beasts, man. Look at these greedy ass niggas, man. Looking at these niggas. This is how Jake, sometimes you look at niggas and just your indignation go from 0 to 1,000. Sometimes you look at niggas and the nigga woman, man. The shit that they be on. Well, the Most High looking like, look at these niggas, man. Put them niggas to death, man. Greedy ass, ungrateful niggas. Okay, it said verse 34, it says, so their place was named Kibroth, all right, Hatavah, the graves of greediness, because there they buried the people who had been greedy, all right, for more than the manna that the Most High provided them, man. The graves of greediness, man. You see? And that's the perfect grave for the graves of greediness, man. All right, and the Lord finna visit the graves of greediness in this time, man. Okay, you goddamn ungrateful Israelites, man. Okay, and that's the spirit on Jake, man. That's the ungrateful, greedy nigga, man. So let's go here. Let's get this one. All right. So just like, and then this also expounds on All right, this also expound on those temples. All right, that was in current, you know, those temples. All right, those idols. Okay, and you know what was going on in those temples. You know, this is nothing new, because even you go back here to Numbers 25:1, it said Israel settled and remained in Shittim, and the people began to play a prostitute with the women. All right, with the woman of Moab. All right, with the women of Moab by being unfaithful to the Most High. Okay, so what did they have? These temple harlots. All right, and this was the temple of Baal of Peor. Okay, and what happened, Jake? All right, these same niggas complaining. Okay, they just had to indulge. Niggas had no self-discipline. They had to indulge, man. Okay, for they invited the Israelites to the sacrifices of their gods, and the Israelites ate food offered to idols and bowed down to Moab's gods. See, this is what was going on. Okay, they intentionally went and dealt with these women in the name of other god. Okay, eating the foods offered to these other gods in their temple. So this was a whole setup just for other gods, man. Okay, so they submitted to the ways of these other guys, man. Pay homage to these other guys intentionally, man. Okay, it's different than, you know, you're buying groceries and, you know, these foods have been offered to idols and you don't know, you know, you're not participating in the ritual. Okay, but you know, you go to the marketplace and you're getting the meat that's left over from these temples, which everything in this society in this time is offered to an idol. Okay, every corporation has some type of symbolism that goes back to some type of idolatry. Okay, you know, so we, you know, partake in these things, but we're not, all right, participating in the ritual aspect and, you know, the joining ourselves and submitting to these idols, man. Okay, and this is what Jake was doing. So Israel joined themselves to Baal of Peor in worship, and the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel. The Lord said to Moses, take all the leaders of the people who have committed sin with the Moabites and execute them in broad daylight before the Lord, Yahweh Shema Shai, so that the fierce anger of the Lord may turn away from Israel. See, the Most High, this how he coming to niggas soon, man. This the spirit of the Most High finna come at niggas soon, man, because grace is just about up. Okay, niggas been playing, all right, and BS and too goddamn long. Okay, and you see now, this niggas are just wilding out, man. You know, ever since they turned the stamps back on, niggas been losing it, man. You know, they turned the stamp back on. Al-Azhar come back. Okay, niggas start teaching about other nations being saved. Okay, vocab on the live screen. Okay, you see this whole thing of you know, women wanting the peg women being a thing now. It's like niggas are just wilding. You know, once the once Egypt, okay, once y'all got a link back to the Egyptian subsidies, okay, it's like god damn. You see, but see, the Lord finna start moving in this spirit. Okay, that broad daylight spirit. You see, you the niggas wild out in the broad day. The Lord finna start wilding out in the broad day. Okay, it says so that the fierce anger of the Lord, all right, may turn away from Israel. So Moses said to the judges of Israel, each one of you must kill his men who have joined themselves to Baal of Peor, all right, and worship. And it says, then one, and listen to this nigga here, man. It said, then one of the Israelites came and presented to his relatives a Midianite woman in the sight of Moses and the whole congregation of the Israelites, while they were weeping over the Most High judgment at the doorway at the tent of the meeting. all right, tabernacle. So look, you got Moses and the judges, all right, they at the tabernacle, in the doorway of the tabernacle. And the judgment just came down from the Most High of what needed to be done. So you have Moses and the judges, they're weeping like, damn, they got to do it. And they're weeping. They're like, man, like, God damn, Jake, why y'all, you know? You see, and Jake had women there. It like wasn't women amongst them. So Jake had women, but Jake just wanted everything. Jake was just greedy. Jake wanted it all. Okay, Jake could have just dealt with their women being cool, So because I say women were there. That's how you had the generation of Joshua. Okay, because it was their children that went into the promised land. So they had women. They had their, they had the situation, but nah, Jake wanted every goddamn thing, man. So Moses and the judges is weeping at the doorway. Okay, and the nigga go get a Midianite woman, a harlot. Okay, a temple harlot, a Baal Peor, right in the sight of Moses and the judges, man. And see, the Lord, like the moment you feel sorry for a nigga, the Lord show us why. There's times, where you like, damn, but then the Lord will show us something and you be like, I get it. Damn them niggas, man. So reading on. Yeah, so reading on, it says, then one of the Israelites came and presented to his relatives a Midianite woman in the sight of Moses and the whole congregation of the Israelites, while they were weeping over the Most High judgment at the doorway of the tent meeting. When Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron the high priest, saw this, he left, the congregation and took a spear, in his hand, and he went after the man of Israel into the tent and pierced both of them through the body, and the man of Israel and the woman, that the plague of Israel stopped. Okay. Nevertheless, those Israelites who died in the plague number 24,000, man. So the Lord put the spirit on Phinehas to have this zeal, and just put a spear through the back, okay, of that Jake and through that woman. All right, a 2 for 1. Okay, he nailed the ass to the floor, man. You see, and this the type of spirit the Lord getting ready to be in, man. Okay, this is where the Lord is going with it, man. Okay, let's get another account, man. All right, let's go from there. Let's get, and there's plenty, there's plenty of accounts of rebellion, but just want to touch on a few of the main ones. Let's get this in Numbers 21. All right, and go back to Corinth. Well, there's plenty of other accounts, man, with niggas rebellion and wilding out. Moses had a time with them niggas there, boy. Moses asked the Lord, like, what did I do? Like, what did I do, to even be in this position? You see? So you go here. All right, this is and remember, the Lord just conquered the people for them. Let's read this. It says, when the Canaanite, all right, the king of Aram, who lived in the Negev, the south country, heard that Israel was coming by the way of Atharim, the route traveled by the spies sent out by Moses, he fought against Israel and took some of them captive. So Israel made a vow to the Lord and said, if you will indeed hand over these people to me, all right, then I will utterly destroy their cities. Okay, the Lord heard the voice of Israel and handed over the Canaanites, that they utterly destroyed them and their cities. So the name of the place was called Harmah, all right, dedicate to destruction. Okay, so the Lord had just delivered, all right, just these Canaanites into their hand, and they conquered, all right, and prevailed over them. Okay, and then immediately after it said, then they set out from Mount Har by the way of the branch of the sea, all right, the Red Sea called the Gulf of Aqaba, to go around the land of Edom, and the people became impatient because of the challenges of the journey, man. You and Jake be weak, man. You know, any look uncomfortable, man, and Jake just lose it, man. Okay. It says, so the people spake against the Most High and against Moses. Why have you brought us out of Egypt to die in the wilderness? For there is no bread, which they were just lying, nor is there any water, and we loathe this miserable food. So wait a minute, you say it ain't no bread and water, but then you say we just got miserable food. Okay? You cannot satisfy a nigga or the nigga woman. Impossible. Okay? It said, then the Lord sent fiery, burning serpents among the people, and they bit the people, and many Israelites died. Okay? And many Israelites died. You see? So the Lord started putting Jake to death, man. You see? The guy, the numbers is coming back, man. Okay? That spirit, you know, the numbers, Alashadja, man. Okay, he says, so the people came to Moses and said, we have sinned, for we have spoken against the Lord and against you. Pray to the Lord. And see, Jake know they be bullshit, man. You know, but when Jake ain't immediately judged for that bullshit, Jake just get worse and worse. Okay, he says, so the people came to Moses and said, we have sinned, for we have spoken against the Lord and against you. Pray the Lord so that he will remove the serpent from us. So Moses prayed for the people. Then the Lord said to Moses, make a fiery serpent, all right, make a fiery serpent of bronze and set it on, all right, a pole, and everyone who is bitten will live, all right, when he looks at it. And it is a representation of Yahweh Shai, all right, this serpent on the pole. Okay, it says, so Moses made a serpent of bronze and put it on a pole, and it happened that if a serpent had bitten any man, when he looked to the bronze serpent, he lived. Okay, that is how side represent what? Life. Okay, his sacrifice, you know, will mean life, you know, for us. Okay, so that was a foreshadow of Yahweh Shai. You see, because as we, you know, Lord will, I might have to tap into that by ourselves, you know. But yeah, man. So there was a shadow of Yahweh Shai, all right, and you know, but they had to obey and look up to that serpent, you know. So obedience was required for them to live. Okay, but it's just, you know, the accounts of Jake in the wilderness, and just, you know, Apostle Paul, you know, was warning the church of Corinth, like, look, you don't want to go down that path. You know, I'm here to tell you, let me run it for you. Let me go and tell you about your forefathers. Okay. You don't want to embark down that path. Okay. 1 Corinthians, all right, chapter 10 and verse 11. It says, now these things happened to them as an example and warning to us. Okay. They were written for our instruction, to admonish and to equip us, upon whom the ends of the ages have come. Therefore, let one who thinks that he stands firm, immune to temptation, being overconfident and self-righteous, take care that he does not fall into sin and condemnation. Yeah, so we can't be overconfident like we immune to temptation and can't get pulled into that. And that's the thing too, being honest with ourselves. You know, the worst worst mindset to have is to think you got it all figured out. Okay, and think you're, overconfident, to think that you can handle any situation, and you're just putting yourself in all these different situations. Like, you gotta know your weaknesses, man. One thing in the truth, you gotta know your weakness. You know when you start doing something that this thing can have a hold on you. You know when you start doing this, that it can have a hold on you, can have a strain on you. Okay, you gotta be, have an honest assessment of ourselves. Okay, and be mindful that because this world is so easy to get sucked into things because everything is in abundance and convenience. This system is set up. This beast system is set up for you to destroy yourself with your lust. Okay, the system doesn't deal with moderation and structure. It's all just about, hey, do as thou wilt, and everything is laid out for you to do as thou wilt. Okay, whether it's food, women, drink, partying, chasing money is always something available for you. All right, to indulge in the flesh in this system, man. Okay, and it says, therefore, um, let I read 12 again. Saying, therefore, let the one who think he stands firm, immune to temptation, being overconfident and self-righteous, take care, all right, that he does not fall into sin and condemnation. And see, even Yahushua, he made the statement when you go here to the book of Matthew, chapter 26. All right, Matthew 26 and 41, it says, keep actively watching and praying that you may not come into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the body is weak. The flesh is weak. Okay? The spirit is willing. The spirit is willing, to be obedient, to be occupied in the labors. Okay? To be occupied in Yahweh Shema Shai, to be, fulfilling his office in the Lord. The spirit is willing to do that, but the flesh is weak. Flesh is easily distracted. Okay? The flesh has no discipline. You see, it takes the spirit to give discipline to the flesh. Okay, that's why you have to be in the spirit, because we in the flesh, it needs things. Okay, but the flesh can't be in control. All right, the flesh can't be in the driver's seat because the flesh don't have brakes. the flesh don't know if brakes exist. Okay, it takes the spirit to, all right, be balanced, man, to where you can maneuver. Know when to hit the brakes, know when to park. Get out, take a walk. You see, the flesh is just all gas, man. Okay, so we have to, really, be honest with ourselves and know ourselves, man. And don't set ourselves up for failure, man, because like I say, this flesh, okay, once the flesh get on the roll, it's Rick James from them, man. 1 Corinthians 10 and 13. It says, no temptation, regardless of its source, has overtaken or enticed you that is not coming to the human experience, nor is any temptation unusual or beyond human resistance. But the Most High is faithful to his word. He is compassionate and trustworthy, and he will not let you be tempted beyond your ability to resist. So the Lord doesn't put us in positions to fail. It's the flesh that don't give a damn. The Lord puts us in environments to win. Okay, it said, but along with the temptation, he has in the past and is now and will always provide the way out as well, so that you will be able to endure without yielding and will overcome temptation with joy. And see, the thing is, if we keep resisting, the Lord gives us a way out. You know, we keep resisting temptation and certain urges, man. The Lord, He gives us a way out. You know, the thing is to keep resisting. And then eventually, because resistance is refining us, is building character. You know, we can resist things, is building character, it's fortifying us, man. You know, especially for the times to come. Okay, so resistance, the Lord has to put us through times where we have to resist, and then He'll give us a way out. You know, then we be in another situation. We gotta resist, and then He'll give us a way out. You know, because it's the resistance that's making us strong in this thing, that's building us up. Okay, it said, but along with the temptation, I'll jump past that. Okay, verse 14 said, therefore, my beloved, run. Keep far away from any sort of idolatry that includes loving anything more than the Most High or participating in anything that leads, all right, to sin and enslaves the soul. Okay. So being, let's go here. Let's get a couple. Let's go here. Let's get this in the book of Sirach. So let's go here to the book of Sirach. See 31 first. Then we'll jump to 18. You know, because like I say, pleasure ain't wicked, you know, but there's an order, there's a structure, and there's a moderation to it. Okay, but pleasure itself, okay, is not wicked. You see, this is the book of Sirach 31 and 27. It says, wine is as good as life to a man, if it be drunken moderately. Okay, what life is then to a man that is without wine? For it was made, all right, to make men glad. So when wine drunken moderately is good as life to a man, you know. So things done in moderation, pleasure done in moderation is cool, and then with order, you know, because sex itself ain't wicked, all right. But you supposed to deal with your own woman. You're a woman, okay. You supposed women that don't have, you know, men. You see, and so even dealing with that is moderation with that. Okay, sex becomes wicked when it comes to adultery, and when you're trying to do it in ways that ain't natural, and the madness that comes with this world. That's when it becomes wicked. Okay, that's when it becomes a wicked pleasure, man. Okay, food isn't wicked. You know, most of the food is defiled here and corrupted and, you know, jacked up. Okay, but the food itself isn't wicked, but it's moderation. Okay, it says wine measurably drunk and in season bringeth gladness of heart and cheerfulness of mind. Okay, so wine measurably drunk in season bringing gladness of heart and cheerfulness of mind, but wine drunk with excess maketh bitterness of mind, with brawling and quarreling. Drunkenness increases the rage of a fool till he offend, and diminishes strength and maketh wounds, man. You know, and there's literal wine, strong drink, and spiritual. All right, because you see how people, how they're operating off the wine of Babylon, man. They're madmen, brawling, quarreling, okay, drill culture, gang, you know, crazy, wilding, man. Death, okay? But now things are supposed to be done in moderation, man. It's supposed to be a moderation, okay, to everything, man. You see, and that's what, you know, that's one of the things that, you know, we mature in. That's a part of going from a child to an adult in the spirit. Okay, a child doesn't know moderation. That's why I say, woe to thee, O land, when thy prince is a child, and thy kings eat in the morning for pleasure. Okay, you're under bad leadership. Okay, and you guys that follow Sakari, you're woe to you. Your prince is a child. Okay, so I'm talking about Hakah, Hassad, and Alazar. Okay, let's go here to Sirach 18 and 30. Say, go not after thy lust, but refrain thyself from thy appetite, showing restraint. Restraint, you can't go after every lust. Okay, you can't, you don't need to get every woman phone number. Okay, you don't need to, drink everything offered to you, eat everything offered to you, man. We gotta have restraint. Okay, it says if thou givest thy soul the desires that please her, all right, your flesh in control, the flesh running the show. Okay, she will make thee a laughing stock to thy enemies that malign thee, man. Haven't we seen this? Okay, haven't we seen, Jake? Okay, letting their flesh run the show, and now they become a laughing stock, man. Okay, so now when the flesh not thinking long term, the flesh is not thinking about you having a good name, the flesh is thinking about that moment. Okay, you see. So now, man, a major part of the truth is, self-restraint. You know. All right, so let's go back here. Go back to Corinthians. First Corinthians 1. It's like First Corinthians chapter 10, verse 15. It says, I started 14. It said, therefore, my beloved, run, keep far away from any sort of idolatry that includes loving anything more than the Most High or participating in anything that leads to sin and enslaves the soul. I am speaking to the wise, or I am speaking as to wise and sensible people. Judge carefully and thoughtfully, consider your ways and what I say. Is the cup, all right, of blessing which we bless at the Lord's Supper, not a sharing in the blood of Hamashiach? Indeed it is. It is bread which we break, not, all right, it said, it said in the cup of blessing which we bless at the Lord's Supper, not a sharing in the blood of Hamashiach. Indeed it is. It is the bread which we break, not a sharing in the body of Hamashiach. Indeed it is. Okay. So going into, the Lord, the Passover. All right. There's some, what it means, what it symbolizes. Okay. The bread, the body of Yahushua. Okay. The wine, the drink, the blood, that sacrifice Yahushua made. Okay. Because through that blood, and through his body, it is an agreement to a new covenant. All right. And before we enter into that new covenant, we've been given grace. Okay. And within that grace period, what are we to do? To be unified in the same faith, the same doctrine, the same belief, and to grow, okay, in acceptable conduct, man. Okay. It says, since there is one bread, we believers who are many are united into one body, for we all partake of the one bread, which represents the body of Hamashiach, same faith, same doctrine, same belief. Okay, which promotes what the same conduct. It said, consider the people of Israel are those who eat the sacrifices, not partners on the altar, united in their worship of the same power. Indeed they are. Going back to, how the Levites would, partake in the remainders of those animal sacrifices. Okay. And there was, meals, consecrated to the Most High. Okay. Which puts them in unity, same spirit, the same mind. It said, what do I mean then? that a thing offered to idols is anything special or changed simply because it is offered to idols, or that an idol is anything. On the contrary, the things which the Gentiles pagan sacrifice, they sacrifice to demons in effect, and not to the Most High. And I do not want you to become partners with demons by eating at feast in pagan temples. So now, because going back to what we read in Numbers, okay, Jake would intentionally go to these pagan temples in the spirit of those different gods, okay, which is ultimately demons, okay, to partake, all right, with those different gods, man, to feast and to play. You see, they was intentionally going into those temples for that. Okay, they wasn't on the way home, and it's a temple on the way home that sell meat, and you pick the meat up and go. Like, nah, they went in there. Okay, they wanted the full effect. You see, so Apostle Paul, like, look, if you intentionally are participating in these things, you're joining yourself back to these demons, man. You're putting spirits on you. Okay, so just as when you have your Passover and the believers, y'all come in the same spirit, y'all unified by the same belief, the same doctrine, y'all are one. So if you do the same thing with these idols, you become one with these idols and the culture and the greed and the undiscipline that comes with it. Okay, and it says you cannot drink both of the Lord's cup and the cup of demons. You cannot share both the Lord's table and the table of demons, thereby becoming partners with them. So he's letting you know you can't double dip. You can't, still participate in these rituals and the temple and playing with these temple harlots and now you're becoming like them. Okay, it said, do we really provoke the Lord to jealousy when we eat food sacrificed to handmade gods at pagan feasts? Are we spiritually stronger than He? Certainly not. He knows the idols are nothing, but we deeply offend. Okay, deeply offend. It said the offense consists of becoming partners with demons, merely to enjoy the pagan meal as exercise. All right. It said verses. All right. It said the offense consists of becoming partners with demons versus merely, all right, to enjoy the pagan meal as an exercise of the believer's liberty. So yeah, so there's a difference of you going, you say you're on your way home, or you have to go out and get some food, and you go, you dip into the temple, get the food, and you get out of there, man. But when you stop and parlay, and you see, you all right, you know what it is in there, all right. But you kicking it, and you see, you start to indulge and drink and get drunk, and okay. So now you keep doing that, you're becoming like-minded with them again. Okay, and you can't do both because you're gonna be offensive. All right, because now you're offending the Lord. Okay. So it says all things are lawful, that is morally legit, permissible, but not all things are beneficial and advantageous. All right, all things are lawful, but not all things are constructive to character and edifying to spiritual life. Okay, so the meat might be lawful, okay, but you go in there indulging and you participate in these feasts, okay. You see, that doesn't do good for your character, because what's that? Evil communication corrupt good character, man. Okay, so Apostle Paul, he just bringing balance to everything. He said, "Let no one seek only his own good, but also that of the other person." Regarding meat, okay, offered to idols, eating anything that is sold in the meat market without asking any questions for, all right, the sake of your country. So you can eat, from the meat market and, get what you got to get. Okay, well, I said, you don't show up just grilling the man and interrogate, what his meat come from and what's been done to it. Go get your meat and go, man. It said, for the whole earth is the Lord and everything that is in it. If one of the believers invites you to a meal at his home and you want to go, eat whatever is served to you without asking questions about its source for the sake of your conscience, man. So just like now, your cousin invite you over to eat. He's an unbeliever. Okay, you just go eat. If you want to. You see, if you choose to go, just go eat the food. He's an unbeliever. Okay, more than likely he didn't pray to Jesus about the food. You pray to the true power. All right, in the name of his son. Okay, and eat and let that be that. All right, you don't go and ask him. When you pray to Jesus already over the food, you see, you just go partake and whatever lawful. It said, verse 28 said, but if anyone said to you, this meat has been offered and sacrificed to an idol, do not eat it out of consideration for the one who told you and for conscience sake. Okay, so if someone tells you deliberately, and this was more so then because you're not gonna have it too much now. All right, if somebody gonna tell you, I offer this to Zeus, the way to come out the back say, yeah, we just do a sacrifice to Zeus. Okay, but during this time it would be more relevant that will happen. So he's giving a protocol for that. Like, look, if they tell you, they come directly and tell you, now it's on your conscience, and not only for your conscience, but for them, all right, which know what you believe, all right, yeah, you fall back, because it has to be a showing, it has to be a separation, okay, it has to be known that there's a separation and there's principles, that we stand on and walking in Yahweh Shai. It says, and by conscience, I mean for the sake of the man's, not yours. For why is, all right, my freedom of choice judged by another man's conscience, another's ethics, another sense of right, all right, or wrong? Okay. So we reading on. So he's like, okay, why, because Paul will say, okay, well, you might say, why should I consider another man's conscience? Even an unbeliever. It says, if I take my share of food with thankfulness, why am I accused? All right, because of something for which I give thanks. So then, whether you eat or drink or whatever you do all to the glory of our great power. So the Apostle Paul, he's going to explain it, but he's like, okay, I don't believe in the idol. I know the idols are nothing. I gave thanks to my food. Even though he told me, I'm still not condemned in my conscience. Okay. Verse 32, it said, do not offend Jews or Greeks or even the church of the Most High, but live to honor him, just as I please everyone in all things as much as possible, adapting myself to the interests of others, not seeking my own benefit, all right, but that of the many, so that they will be open to the message of salvation and be saved. Okay, so what is he saying? It's like you might have an unbeliever, okay, and speaking, let's go into this time. All right, so you will have during this time certain unbelievers that will come and let the believers know that this meat is offered to this and that. Okay, and the believer, turn it down, like, okay, I'm cool, appreciate them, good. All right, well, what that does, it shows discipline, okay, and then it shows consistency. So now, okay, that opens the door for the unbeliever. All right, he may become interested later on down the line. Okay, and he knows that you've been steadfast in your faith and your belief, and he will become interested down the line. So it's just always left the door open for an unbeliever, to see our consistency and our conduct. Okay, and be like, okay, I'm interested now. You see? So today, that's why we have certain conduct even amongst the unbelievers to leave their door open, because your conduct could be witnessing to them. Okay, to eventually, they get interested. It's not gonna be like that for all of them, but if one or two, like what the angels say, they rejoice. Okay, when one is turned. Okay, so that's the point. Lord will, you brothers. All right, and you sisters edified once again. I want to give all praise and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakodash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers. And peace and blessing, salutation, hopefully, Shalom.